So session 5 of Back to Basics. And the next basic fact is the death and resurrection of Jesus. Maybe we need to start with the fact that Jesus was a historical figure. That is, he did really live on earth. He's not just a figure in the Bible. Jewish historian Josephus refers to Jesus in his writing, and so does the Roman historian Tacitus. And there are lots of other people who refer to the figure of Jesus. He was a real person. Having established that, then what's the importance of his death and resurrection? These facts are also attested to by people outside of the Bible. Now, the Jews knew the importance of the sacrificial system. God initiated that system because he wanted people to recognise the cost of disobedience. God cannot look on sin. It is just too offensive to him. The sinner deserves to die. But in his mercy, God allowed an innocent animal to take the price of what the person had done, die in their place. It wasn't sufficient to actually pay the cost of sin, but it was a reminder of what it did cost, and that is death. Now, Jesus came to earth, a human being. He had the very nature of God. But as a human being, he took on himself everything about being human, and including the ability to disobey and dishonour God. He never did disobey, and yet he accepted the sinful nature of us all. 2 Corinthians 5:21. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that we might become the righteousness of God. So Jesus took the punishment of sin, death. With the sacrifice of a perfect life, then animal sacrifice was no longer needed. Sin had been dealt with once and for all. But it wasn't dealt with by some outside person. It was dealt with by God himself. What does it mean for us? Well, some say that, we can do what we like really because our sin's been paid for, so what does it matter? But when we do something that displeases or dishonours God, we put a barrier between ourselves and God. And we carry the weight of what we have done until we deal with it. Now, to deal with it, we need to recognise what we did was wrong. We need to confess it as sin to God. And we also need to be genuine in that, because we really want a heart that says, I just don't want to do that again. If we come to God like that, then we will hear the words, you are forgiven, the price has been paid. But also God is wanting to cleanse us from the things that we've done wrong. He wants to change our hearts so that we don't desire to do those things again. And so this is where we also need to recognise the resurrection of Jesus. He lives, not just to demonstrate that he was who he claimed to be, but he lives, he's alive today to work with his followers. He promises to live with us, to work with us, to change us more and more into his likeness. If we just have the death of Jesus, then he's a martyr, he's a role model. With the resurrection, we have the power to change lives. So everyone who professes to be a Christian can only be so by acknowledging that Jesus died as a payment for their sin, and that, with the help of the risen Jesus, we can live a life that is pleasing to God.
Won't you see the dawn of the darkest day? Christ on the road to Calvary, tried by sinful men, torn and beaten there, nailed to a cross of wood. Is the power of the cross. Christ became sin for us, took the blame for the wrong we stand forgiven us. is the power